There were many games that were loosely based on Formula 1 racing. Some were mere nomenclature than anything close to a simulation. But the first one that many of us were exposed to, and undoubtedly the first that springs to most people's minds, is Nintendo's F1 race. I was something of a fan of the sport in the 90s, before it completely lost its way and became the snooze fest it is nowadays, and this is not at all how I remember it. Racing games of the time were mostly either top-down or a third-person perspective, with a static car and moving backgrounds. This is the latter, and the overall look of the game is standard for the time. If you've played something like Outrun or Chase HQ, then F1 Race is not dissimilar. It's not as nice to look at as it could be, there are no inclines of any kind, and the backgrounds look pretty drab. The foregrounds are quite clever, as the striped ground either side of the track changes contrast depending on your speed. At low speeds, it's white and black. Increase up and the black changes to a dark grey, changing to a light grey and white at the highest speeds. This really gives a feeling of pace and is a very nice effect. Strangely, if you play this on a colorized palette, the ground can sometimes look like it's changing colors. There's no gear shifting in the game, you just press A to accelerate and B to brake. You know how this works. Pushing up on the D-pad allows you to use nitro boost for a finite amount of time, indicated by a fuel gauge on the HUD. You're given a pretty generous supply too, as all races are only 2 laps and you can't really use the boost on the corners. When boosting, the feeling of speed becomes really prevalent. Flames come out the back of your car and you get this awesome whirring sound that could double up as a jet plane. The draw distance isn't superb, and often you need to brake in good time to make some of the corners, but fortunately you're given a satellite map feature that shows both you and the first place CPU on it, and it's pretty accurate. Pay attention to this if you can so that you can plan your boosts and braking zones accordingly. There are 2 different cars to choose from. Car B is faster, but only has a small nitro tank, and the higher top speed makes it harder to corner. I just chose Car A all of the time, as some of the less tight corners can be taken without having to decelerate, which more than makes up for the lower top speed. If you crash out, there's little chance of you having enough time to come first. As you might expect, the opponents never crash. You need to come first to progress to the next race, which is definitely not how an F1 season works. Aside from the championship season, there is also a time trial mode, with a save battery included in the cartridge that enables you to save your fastest laps. This was quite a thing back then, you understand. Being able to save your game was actually a selling point. F1 Race is not a technical marvel by any means, but for the time it was fun, and very popular, not least for the use of a 4-way adapter that meant you could race with 3 of your friends too. Some cameos from famous Nintendo mascots, including Link's and Samus's first appearances on the Game Boy, only added to the charm.